twice as busy. But I think my name's Andy Nielsen. I'm the co-founder, creative director of King & Country.
Hey Andy, I was just trying to find out some more information about the company.
Sure. Well, the company began, Henry, back in 1983. And like most companies in this business, it started off effectively as a hobby and turned into a very serious business. But I started off as a collector. I was collecting toy soldiers when I was a little kid. And then of course you get to about 14, 15, you get interested in the opposite sex and you decide to put toy soldiers aside. And then back in 1981 in Hong Kong, where I was living and working, my brother sent me a little box set of toy Royal Marines. And being an ex-Marine, I thought, this is fantastic, get me some more. And that started me collecting again as an adult, which I did for a couple of years, and then decided that Hong Kong at that time was the toy capital, manufacturing capital of the world. So my ex-wife, business partner, and still business partner, Laura, said, hey, why don't we make our own toy soldiers? And so we did. We contacted a little factory in the back streets of Hong Kong, and we started designing and making King & Country toy soldiers.
Can you tell us a little more about what kind of toy soldiers you make?
Sure. Well, we make all-metal, hand-painted toy soldiers, very much in the traditional style of manufacturing. We spin cast. The actual metal we use is called white metal, which is an alloy of tin, lead, and antimony. That all gets mixed together, we pour it into silicone rubber molds, and out of that we get the unpainted figure, which we clean the flash off of, and then we individually hand paint.
Can you tell me a little bit about the vehicles, how those are made?
Originally the first vehicles we made were actually made out of wood. They were hand carved, hand painted, and we manufactured them in the Philippines. Only one problem, and a big problem, they were really, really expensive. So we were always looking around to find a cheaper way of manufacturing. I was at a trade fair here in Hong Kong, or there in Hong Kong I should say, and discovered this material called polystone. Polystone is a mix of marble dust and resin. It's very strong, quite heavy, but it molds very easily. So we decided to make some vehicles out of polystone. Lo and behold, it was a great way to make them. It dramatically brought the prices down of both manufacturing and retailing. And then we added in extra detail, and the extra detailing, we used metal for the extra detailing. So we mixed polystone and white metal to make the finished vehicles. And of course, again, they're all hand finished, hand painted.
Andy, you do an incredibly wide range of different time periods throughout history. Anything special, your favorites, anything particular you like?
Well, my own personal favourite is probably World War II. I mean, I'm like you, I'm interested in all of history. But you have things, some things are more favourite than others. World War II for me. But as you say, the range of what we do, everything from ancient Egypt, the life of Jesus, ancient Greece, up through the Crusades, into the American War of Independence, Napoleonic Wars, American Civil War, World War I, World War II. A few years ago, back in 2003, we actually did the war in Iraq. We did US Marines, US Army, British Army, and we did the bad guys as well. In fact, we even did a little figure of Osama bin Laden being captured. In fact, King & Country captured Osama bin Laden years before the Navy SEALs got him.
Andy, what type of people do they collect the range King & Country that you noticed?
Well, let's widen up to what kind of people collect toy soldiers. In the past, you've had people like Winston Churchill, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., they were big toy soldier collectors. But today, you get people like the late Jonathan Winters, fantastic American comedian. He was a big toy soldier collector, and I'm proud to say that he had some King & Country in his own collection. But people like Robin Williams, Phil Collins, Rod Stewart, let me think, who else? Oh, even Prince William in the UK, he's got some of our toy soldiers, and the Duke of Gloucester, who is our Queen's first cousin, he's a big King and Country collector. But on a normal level, just lots of ordinary folks like ourselves. It ranges from plumbers, carpenters to doctors, engineers, architects, CEOs of companies. It's really across the board. But it's people that love history and every aspect of history.
Andy, one thing I noticed is that the King and Country range has the word collectible before them. What's the meaning behind the word collectible for the range?
I think that the reason, Henry, is the fact that in real terms we don't manufacture millions or hundreds of thousands, or often not even thousands of a particular figure or a particular vehicle. We like to keep it in some ways a little bit exclusive. We tend to manufacture it in the hundreds. And on a global basis, that's not very much, but we do it for several reasons. One, quite frankly, we want to keep the value of the product what it is, both for us as a manufacturer, but also for the collector themselves, and also because the molds that we use usually only work for the production of maybe 400 pieces or 500 pieces. So from both a technical aspect, it's not that easy to do tens of thousands of product. Plus, we are aiming at a very select group of people. We're no threat to Toys R Us or Mattel or Hasbro. We're not in that game. We are aiming at primarily an adult collector. And it's usually guys in their 20s up to their 70s and 80s and all points in between. We've also got some younger people as well that are coming into the hobby. But overall, we've got a very firm focus on the people that we're aiming at and where we can find them. Of course, I'd like to sell more, and sometimes we can increase the numbers, but we still want to keep an exclusivity to it.
Andy, King and Country is looked upon as the leader in the toy soldier hobby. Where do you see King and Country going in the future in the hobby?
Well, it's very flattering to be perceived as a leader. I think we're one of the. I do, in all modesty, I think we're one of the leaders in the toy soldier hobby. Where do we see ourselves going in the future? I love doing this job. I'm truly blessed to be in a position to have a company like King and Country. When I look to the future, all I can hope is that we continue to grow, expand and improve. And I look back to our past, and now we've been going for 30 years, since 1983. I can look at what we produced 30 years ago. I can look at what we produced a year ago, and I can see an improvement. And people often say to me, how do you manage to do that? How can you keep improving year after year, month after month? Well, I suppose you can say practice makes perfect, but we'll never be perfect. We'll always, I hope, be able to improve. There's so many other historical eras that we as a company want to explore and develop. And sometimes you can develop series some things that we did a few years ago that weren't that popular because for the collector it wasn't the right time, the right place. A few years later, it is the right time, the right place, and then you can introduce that series. Other things come out of nowhere. One of the reasons that we come to these shows is that, or come to America and go to Europe and visit the collectors, meet the dealers and talk to them directly. Some of the best ideas that we've ever developed have come from a dealer or come from a collector. And suddenly you think, that's a great idea, let's do it. And it takes you off in a whole new direction. So that's part of the excitement and the joy of working with King and Country, is working with the collectors and the dealers together to take the whole thing further. So I'm giving you a long-winded answer to a very straightforward question. Where will we be in 5 years' time? I've absolutely no idea. But we'll be here, and I hope we'll still be developing, and I believe we'll still be developing, as long as we keep an open mind. We're open to fresh ideas, new approaches, and that we're always doing. Plus, even in the manufacturing process, it's constantly developing. So, whatever it is, and I don't know what it will be, it's going to be exciting. And I want to make sure that King & Country is part of that excitement.
Andy, I know you've been to the store a couple of times before the shows in California. Now that we're carrying the King & Country range, what's it going to take to get you to come maybe do a meet and greet or come greet the customers in the store?
Well, if you can send me the Brookhurst private jet to Hong Kong to pick me up, I promise you I'll be there. No, as you know, I love your store. It is one of my favourite destinations in America. We do all kinds of promotion throughout the year. We do the shows, as you know. We do lots of meet and greets in individual dealer stores, and we also do things like this. We bring out our own magazine every 3 months that tells people the latest developments of King Country, the latest products, and hopefully gives them some good ideas. So although I may not get to the Brookhurst store next week, I sincerely hope I'll be getting there soon. And but in the meantime, look out for Collector or any of the other things that we do to find out what we're up to. But I look forward to the time when I do get to Brookhurst and we get the chance to sit down with collectors there and talk toy soldiers.
Andy, a lot of people think that toy soldiers are just for putting on a shelf and collecting dust and sitting there, but King & Country actually brings out more to toy soldiers than just sitting on a shelf.
As you and me have talked about before, the best way to see King & Country, to display King & Country, is to put it in a diorama. This is a perfect example of a large diorama built by my brother Gordon. And here you can see a scene that's been set in Russia mid-war, say 1942-43, where you've got a whole bunch of figures and fighting vehicles, and at the same time it tells a story. So for me, it's too bland and too ordinary just to put figures in a glass shelf in a display cabinet. Get them to tell a story, and that way the excitement and the interest is so much greater.
Andy, I noticed at the show here it's more than just displays of figures and vendors. I notice you have a large amount of reenactors here. What's the reason behind the reenactors?
Well, we think that's really important, that people can see there's a lot more to a toy soldier show than just toy soldiers. But the great thing is we get these young guys here who come along to the show who really are military history buffs themselves. Many of them are toy soldier collectors. But it just adds to the colour and the excitement of the show, and it gives visitors photo opportunities to take guys dressed 1-to-1 scale as opposed to 1:30 scale. You know, so it's a really nice idea, and we're very fortunate that there's a lot of reenactors right here in San Antonio.
Hi Andy, I see you have Laura here with you. This is the 7th year of the show. I think it's the 2nd year you guys have been involved with it. How did you guys get started with the show?
Well, originally Nick had asked us to join with him to start the original show, and because I was here in San Antonio, but I had 2 young children and a lot going on at that time and couldn't do it. So when Nick was rather ill a couple of years ago, he asked again if we'd be interested in helping with the show or even taking it over. And because we wanted the show to thrive and survive and grow, we decided that yes, we would take it over, and we did that too. This is our 2nd one, so that was like about a year and a half ago.
The great thing is you never realise how much work goes into running a successful show, and I really admire all our friends at the West Coaster and at the Chicago show and the London shows, how well they've run their shows, and we're really trying to emulate the best of the toy soldier shows elsewhere in the world. But because we're in San Antonio, we've got a unique opportunity to host a show in a very special American city that's full of history. It's a perfect venue, the Menger Hotel, right next to the Alamo, and we really love it. So long may it continue.
And we want it to grow. That's the other thing. It's growth. We want growth as well here. This is the only one in the south, and so we think there's a lot of room for growth. So next year will be the 8th.
One of the things I noticed about the show is that it's 2 days also. Is there a particular reason for 2 days?
Well, there's lots of shows in Europe that are just one-day events. And here in the States, in Chicago, West Coaster, it's a multi-day event. But for us here in San Antonio, Saturday, Sunday seems a perfect time. And especially since lots of collectors come from all over the States into Texas. To come for just a one-day event is not enough. But for the also the dealers that are here, the people that are selling, for them to set up for one day, it's not really cost effective. So you need those 2 days both for the collector and the dealer, and it seems perfect.
And also we always do it on the Memorial Day weekend, which gives everybody an extra day to
recover,
either pack up or to indeed just enjoy San Antonio and the sights that it offers. So that's a nice added bonus.
I noticed that in the evening time tonight you have a symposium going on. What's the event going on tonight?
It's something we started a year ago where we had a few experts in the toy soldier hobby and business. I hate to say it, but I'm supposed to be one of them that like to talk about the hobby and the business to a group of collectors. Last year we had 70 collectors came to this special dinner. Tonight we're going to have 100. And it's really a chance for collectors to ask questions and get answers to different aspects of the hobby. But tonight's really special because we have Colonel Richard Cole, who was a co-pilot of Colonel Jimmy Doolittle's B-25 in the famous Doolittle raid on Tokyo in 1942. Colonel Cole is one of 4 survivors from the squadron that took part, and we're truly honoured to have him with us tonight, speaking and attending the event.